Hey, welcome to Real Talk, episode 133, part 2. I'm Todd, this is AJ,
Yo.
and we are joined by the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend himself.
The legend.
Norman. I don't want to say his last name. Anyway.
Norman.
Good to see you, buddy. Hey, if you're new to Real Talk, boy, this is probably not the best. It might be a good episode to join, actually. This is actually part 2, though. We encourage you to go watch part 1. I say that being embarrassed by part 1 because of my poor attitude. So I'll start off by saying, those that watch part 1, hey, Real talk. I wasn't in a great place. I stand by a lot of stuff what I said, but people are like, man, I could tell you were kind of off, and you're probably right. So I apologize for not being real with you guys because I'm not sure I even knew. But this is about being real. This is about showing that you can be real in God's church.
Amen.
That it's okay to be human, and that sometimes life is not clean and perfect and sanitized, that we have to work through things. So I apologize to you guys and to you guys. For the way that I said some things or the way my body language and stuff was. But I'm back. I still stand by a lot of it, which we'll talk about. But the way that I said things, I apologize to that. So.
I love you, man.
I
appreciate it. Also, I should give you guys an apology as well because I know I've been a weirdo for a long time, so I'm ready to be back and be real, man. So I'm excited for this.
Any opening
I
thoughts?
love you guys both, and I forgive both of you.
Thanks,
man.
I think that's the church, is forgiving people.
Amen.
Should be. Truly believe that you guys are repenting, and I'm looking forward to where the show goes.
We're going to dive in, boy.
Well, hey, I'm going to... I just feel like I got to. So, here's what I would say is before we get into this show. Well, if you watch part 1, how do I do this? Let me get the business out of the way. So that being said, those of you that are brand new, and maybe you want to stick around because you're like, what's going on here? There's a reason it's called train wreck. We're going to see what happens. But I will tell you this. The show's built around being real. Listen, this whole Christianity thing, whether you're a Christian or whether you're not, but you're curious in watching this, or whether you stumbled upon this and you've never even think about those things, here's the facts. Christianity is not an option. It's not one of many paths. Well, it is. But it's the only path that leads to life. It's real. And I'm looking at you in your electronic eyes. Hopefully you're in the camera. And if you're on podcast, that makes no sense. So just, it's in your ears. But this is real. And we believe in that. And we've seen it. But we also realize that we understand why sometimes people out there get confused on that. Those that don't know Christ can probably look at us. It's a shame that that quote, right? The problem with Christianity is Christians. Have you ever heard that? Mm-hmm. I would say 2 things. One, you're right. We have probably sometimes got caught up into a culture that's not necessarily what Christ has taught, but we've created, meaning Christianity as a whole. And I think we're all aware of it, but we kind of go with it because that's the way you do things. But I'll say the other thing. I think that if you're a person looking for fault, Christians within Christianity are an easy target because we're not perfect. But here's the beautiful thing. It doesn't matter if Christians are jerks. It just matters if Christ is who he said he was.
Amen.
And so, that being said, that's what this show's about. And it really started as an opportunity for you guys, whether you're listening, watching on one of the various social media networks that we're on, to be able to ask questions that you have never gotten to ask or never gotten an answer for about God, Christianity, life, the Bible, how to put all this together, what does it mean to live this out, and to do that in an anonymous and safe place, okay? So somewhere in the description of this video and perhaps on the screen itself, you will see a link that you won't actually be able to click, but you'll at least see it.
You'll see it.
It's www.theremnant.life/real-talk. That real is REAL. So www.theremnant.live/real-talk. I forgot what I was saying. So click that link, follow the directions, go all the way to the bottom of the page, hit submit, go to submit a question, and it'll go into our database instantaneously, completely anonymously. Could not find you if we tried.
That's right.
However, though we do have some of those questions, and Pod Squad, Book Nook, that's what we call our crew, Rumble Jumble. All of you guys keep sending them, and we may or may not get to those today, but we got a lot to talk about. And so the reason we wanted to call this part 2 is Norman and I were supposed to meet, and I texted, I don't remember who.
You messaged me on Facebook.
That's right.
And you text me, and then you text Brandon, and then...
Because I want to make sure you got it, man. And I was like, hey, just tell him to come in if he comes in. If he didn't, he didn't. He came in and stirred the pot a little more, so we came up. So, that is catching you up to date.
That's right.
So Norman is here as a guest and a brother, and we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about some stuff. So last show, we called it train wreck because honestly, it was disastrous.
It was bad,
in the way that in the way that we normally do the show. And I'm sure it felt awkward to you guys and weird and like why we were all being odd. And one of the things we had talked about is, man, we're not interacting. We're not having real talk anymore. We're talking at each other.
That's right.
But we're not listening. And that's not what this is about, man. And we've done some stuff in our personal lives that we're not going to catch you all up on, but it may come out in this, that we've had to realize through all this. And we want you guys to know that's life, man. Like, 2 days later from when we filmed, and we're here saying, man, you guys look different. That's how it works. When you recognize stuff. So that's kind of where we're at. And, so looking back, I guess I want to explain sort of where my frustration was, and maybe we can kind of talk about where we're at.
Yeah.
And Norman can ask some questions too, and then we'll just go from there. So again, not scripted. We don't know what's going to happen.
Nope.
We're just three guys, who love Jesus, love each other, and love you, and we're taking this stuff seriously. I'm going to warn you right now. I'm already on it. If you're a pastor who is only used to doing things a certain way, and I say this because I love people, man. Norman, you can attest to this. I've had people say, Todd doesn't like other churches and doesn't like pastors. That's a ridiculous thing. Actually, it's complete opposite. I have a ton of admiration. But unfortunately, sometimes sometimes, I don't know. I want to encourage you. This show should encourage you because I know there's a lot of great pastors out there who, as you try to steer the ship of your specific church or ministry, you find yourself sometimes burnt out because you don't get why people can't do what you know they're supposed to do, what's good for them versus the word and what you probably know in your heart. And I guess use this today to challenge yourself and say, what can I do to get it back to where I think it should be? And we should all be concerned with that as men particularly, but as Christians and then as pastors. So know our hearts in that. If you came here looking for mistakes to find or theological debate to have, you should message me privately, and I'll have that with you because we're not here to have a necessarily theological treatise. Oh, the big guy can talk.
Oh, what's a treatise? Is that like a debate?
Anyway, you don't need to worry about it. So those people looking for it. Anyway, that's where we're at. So, love you. We're not criticizing Christianity because we're a part of it. We love it. We're asking questions in wrestling.
I'm part of the body.
That's my job, is to catch us up. There we are. So, last time, AJ, we kind of talked about, you want to kind of catch people up where you were at. And in all fairness, I guess let's just be real. We tried this again yesterday, and we stopped and said, this is still weird. We're not doing this. And then I think today is the day, man, where you're going to see the fruits of that, of like figuring this stuff out.
I agree. It's been a weird road. This is to preface, we're picking up where we left off, even including yesterday. It has been something that I feel like Christians in general don't do. They don't face this weirdness, or when you get in a place of when you realize that you're not being who you really are, you're not willing to face it. And that's where I was at. I was conforming to the modern Christianity. That's what I was doing. So, to catch you guys up, I was being dishonest. I was not being honest with myself and my feelings, and I wasn't being honest with the guys. And I was just talking at people, like he said. I was talking at Todd. I was talking at Clint. I wasn't listening. I wasn't interacting. And the reason why is because I had fallen into this almost like if you watched the show before, I've told you guys about how I was scared to play a character. I kind of felt like I had fallen into this character, but it had turned into life too. It wasn't just in front of a camera, because even behind the scenes, I was doing the same thing. I was talking at people. I wasn't interacting. I was falling into myself and my own self-hatred. And I was just, I don't know, man. I was a shell of who I really was supposed to be. So, and I'm back. So, that is essentially, in a nutshell, that's what happened. And for a long time, like you said earlier, real talk was, hey, we're going to interact and talk about the crap that you don't want to hear. But here we are now, and we're doing it again.
Or maybe you do want to hear, but it feels uncomfortable to talk about.
That's right, because maybe you're like us and you really want to know.
I can say for the difference even from when part A, and then even from trying to record last night.
Yeah.
There's definitely seems like there's more passion behind it now. in what we're trying to, from what you guys especially are trying to say, and even how you're approaching it. And I think it's easy for us to, when we get into those funks, to where we're already in our own brains and our own minds. We're already struggling with that self-doubt, that self-hatred.
Yeah, man.
That we don't want to let someone else come in and speak into our situation, because then feeling like, hey, it's just another person that's going to point out my flaws, and all basically it's all us trying to battle with our insecurities.
Yeah, dude, and like, I don't know. There's a lot that goes into like how you get to where you are, and where I was at was I had been, since I was dishonest with myself, I was unable to be honest with others, which is so lame. And now I'm kind of back to where, like I said, I'm back, dude, and like I realized that I was holding in a lot of junk, that I didn't even realize that I hadn't realized I was holding on to it for much longer than even like just like the past month and a half or so that I've been weird, So it's cool because I was able to even, that was part of even getting to where I am now, was even like last night, like, I had to face that stuff and go, you know what, hey, I have these feelings, and like, I don't know if I want to go into those right now, but we can at some point.
You might as well. You're already
Yeah.
there.
So, I was holding in a lot of anger. I was holding in a lot of hurt too. That was one thing I didn't realize, man. I was hurt. I was hurt by culture, of, people who are close to me. I was mad at the guys. I was like, listen, I don't think anybody actually really cares, and myself included. I was mad. Well, let me start the other way. I was hurt because I felt like nobody cared, and I was angry because me too. And so, that took a lot for some reason to realize that that's where I was at, man. And so, it was cool because I realized that I've been living in a shell of myself for so long that I forgot that I'm a relational person. I like talking to people. I like having deep conversations and actually getting to know people and love people. But I had settled into this weird box of, that's not you. Slowly faded into like, oh, like I'm not relational. I had literally just done it for so long that I had tricked myself into believing that I was not relational. I was introverted when I think I am an extroverted person, and so, that was I think that was a key thing that I noticed last night of like, dude, like I actually like talking. For some reason, I just bought into this lie and this anxiety that I wasn't.
Do you think, dude, that's really good and honest, so I appreciate that. Do you think that introverted people don't want relationships?
I think they do, but they don't. A lot of the time, the introverted people, I don't think they want to put in the kind of effort an extroverted person does.
See, I don't necessarily. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to change that.
Okay.
I think introverted, like my opinion, I'm not saying introverted and extroverted to me, since you brought that up, and I like that because there might be some introverted people out here, and I like that you said, because in your mind, becoming introverted became an excuse to not have a relationship.
Yeah.
So, and I definitely actually agree with you that a lot of introverted people, because of their personality types, because it's so exhausting, right, to put forth the effort to be, because that's really what it comes from.
That's right, they need that alone
I always
time.
forget that, right? An introvert and extrovert in the definition, as far as personalities, what they're saying, it has nothing to do with whether you're outgoing. It just happens to be that extroverted people typically are. Supposedly, it's actually where you get your energy. So do you feel more energized when you're around people, people, or do you get more energized when you're alone? Does that make sense?
Yep.
That being said, I guess I'm kind of challenged a little. I even think introverts want relationship. They have to. You know how I know that? Because humans do.
That's right.
And I love that you said this because that's kind of what I brought up. And I'm going to grab and piggyback off and then go here. So my frustration yesterday was bigger than the show.
Yes.
And what I realized, and I shared with you and one of our friends, Tim, yesterday, I have a lot of frustration and hurt too. And I had let a hopelessness come over me because I long for community, true community, okay, which I think our church has. Let me say that, the church that sponsors this show. But like anything else, I've noticed this trend of becoming, we use the term Christianese. And even if our Christianese is a different dialect from another churches, we've begun to speak it.
That's right.
My concern. And, when I look at these verses, okay, I've actually put some verses together. I mean, it is wired in our heart to have relationship. And we want more than what we're really getting or giving. We want to be known and to know people. We want, actually probably be known. We want to be known.
More
I
than-
think sometimes our selfishness can stop us from knowing others.
That's right. I agree.
But I don't know, because I also think that like we know that part of that intimacy involves knowing like if I spill my guts to you and you never spill to me, even though it feels good to have someone talk, there's still something missing.
Mm-hmm.
We want real community. So let's just think of this in Scripture, okay?
Okay.
It goes back to what you're saying. Like we talked about a little bit before. It's wanting to be seen.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if I'm dumping all my cares onto somebody and then they don't respond back, to me, like, yeah, I did get that off my chest, but then I still don't feel that I'm seen because they're not willing to go into the areas that level of what I did. So for me, like, remembering that, people do want to feel wanted and asking the questions like, how do you guys feel about that? Have you ever struggled with this? And if you have, because every human has issues.
Oh, absolutely.
Every human goes through wanting the struggles of feeling wanted or unwanted, struggles of being unseen. So, if they say, well, I've never felt that, they're lying.
Oh, absolutely. You're not being real to yourself. Not at all.
So entering into those like, hey, I know you've done it. I know you felt it because you're human. So how do you guys deal with that situation? Asking them those questions.
That's good, man. That's really good.
And then when you're saying like people want to be, even introverts want that in a way, some community and relationships. Well, it's in the Bible. It says that the enemy tries to drag us away and entice us on our own. So if we're not having those relationships, that's easier for the enemy to, when we are by ourselves, to feed into those things that we're hearing. So I do believe, because I'm an extreme extrovert, so I think even introverts, like I know quite a few of them, they still want those relationships. They still want to be those conversations. It's sometimes they just want them when they're ready.
Yeah, but that's the problem. So like this is the danger, and I'm not saying you're doing this, okay? So this is what I don't want to do today. I do not want to sit here and have the answers, but then realize like every Christian in the world can tell us the answers. Every Christian is going to say, I want relationship. So we already started going there. We already started going to this place of like, yeah, we all want relationship. Like that's not real. Because real, I won't even read the verses then. You already said a verse 5. I got 55 verses here, but no one really cares about that. That's what it seems like. I was trying to read verses. Nobody really cares in this thread about that. So we'll move on. I'm being serious, right? But that's being real too. Why don't we, okay, so you don't want to hear it? Because I like it. The bottom line is, why doesn't it happen? Okay? Why doesn't it happen? There is not a Christian in the world who is going to say they do not believe we're supposed to be in community and desire relationships. So I'm going to read this now. Let me read it, guys.
Yep.
Real quick. Everybody knows some. A new commandment I give to you, that love one another, just as I've loved you, you love one another. How did Jesus love? Okay? He certainly didn't talk about himself and his feelings a ton. That's what I find weird. He did to some friends, but he spent a lot of his time learning and loving and carrying burdens for other people and serving them. Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up just as you're doing. And this is 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Encourage one another. Build one another up. There it is again. This focus on other people, not myself. Above all, keep loving. This is 1 Peter 4:8. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. It's interesting. Earnestly is like sincerely. Don't just talk the talk. Right? It's like the idea you brought up actually you brought this privately. You said last night, okay? You were talking to some of the other guys, and I'm not going to let you throw them, it goes back to my wound. He's like, no one really loves me. Why did last night, here's something real. Why did last night you said, I don't think anyone loves me but Todd, but when the camera turned on, you said nobody loves me. Isn't that interesting?
I guess I didn't even catch that.
And the only reason that, I'll get to that in a minute with my own crap, but it's interesting because we just talked about this. So the enemy tries to, and I'm not saying you did, but we get wounded in a lot of ways. But earnestly, not just talk. Love covers a multitude of sins. When I choose to earnestly love people, if I'm sincerely doing it, it's kind of hard for me to be sinful towards them, or to not accept their faults. 1 Peter 3:8. Finally, all of you have unity of mind, sympathy, brotherly love, a tender heart, and a humble mind. How many people in your life have a sympathy, a brotherly or sisterly love for you, a tender heart towards you, and a humble mind. P.S. Now you ready? How many of you have that? How many of us? And this is why I got a little frustrated again. And I love everything you said, Norman. But so I'm not mad at you. I want to make that clear. But there we go again. We can regurgitate the truth here over and over because we've been taught it since you became a Christian. Here's the facts. Why are Christians lonely then? Because we're not home. That's true. But I don't see that. Like, there has to be some relational things that happen in our lives. P.S. Christians, this includes, your spouses even, right? That's your first one, your friends, whatever. John 13:35, by this all people will know that you're my disciples if you have love for one another. What kind of love? Well, it has to be an earnest love. It has to be a love like Jesus. It has to be a love that encourages and builds up. It has to be love with a tender heart. It has to be, all these things. And then Colossians 3:13, I only wrote the first part of it. Bearing with one another. Bearing means wait. Here's what I think. I think most people are lazy. Most of us. And we don't want, I can choose to love you by doing stuff for you. Right? And there's again, anything can be extreme. Even the best of us sometimes, I'm going to go, I'll take you, give you a ride, I'll do this for you. But man, the thing we don't want to sacrifice? Time.
Yep. That's so true, man.
It's got to fit our schedule. And so anyway, I think it's interesting that we all desire the point of this. And Norman, truly, everything you said was great. I just want us to do something with it. At the end of the day, we all want a relationship. And I love what you said too, tons of introverts, and I agree with you. So then what do we do with that? So instead of sitting here telling everybody in the show why they are like that, the easiest thing is to start with ourselves. What stops you and me from loving other people and wanting to know them? And do you think you really do 100% of the time?
No.
If the answer is no, the kind of guy I am as a Christian, if I believe Jesus is 100, he's the perfect example. Should I be justifying the 10% that I don't? Nope. Or, and P.S., I'm not saying condemning, because condemning's selfish too. I stink. You're still not changing anything. Or should we be going, man, I want to grow? What's stopping me? How am I contributing to that culture? So we can call it popular Christian culture, but guess what? We helped create that. What are we doing to create that?
I think, so when you're going through those verses...
So sorry, guys. I'm blowing my nose. I'm very sick still.
The battle continues.
Good news. It tells you I forgot the camera was on.
So when you're reading through those verses, thinking about myself, right, and what is... out of those things, what are the things that I don't like to do or that things I don't do when I'm not loving people? I think one is a humble mind. I do not have a humble mind all the time. I will elevate myself above others at times, and that will come out outwardly. And I think that will create friction. And then before you know it, I'm not loving that person. The other one was, oh man, what was it? Sorry, guys.
We'll come back because we can't just sit here.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
For me, I struggle with fear of not wanting, or a fear of wanting to say the right thing, I say the wrong thing. So if you're sharing your heart, I want to be able to speak into it because I want to be able to. I'm a fixer. I want to fix your problem. So then I'm also fearful of saying the wrong thing and then leading you somewhere deeper than where you should have went and actually went into more maybe like a sin thing than actually helping you get out of it.
So what's like an example of that so people understand? Because I kind of think I know what you mean, but what do you mean?
I'm thinking about it right now. So if I'm sitting here and you share your heart about something, and I'm like, well, personal advice instead of scriptural advice. So if you instead of saying hey, well, this is how I went through it, this is how I dealt with it, and so sometimes my own experiences that I tell you that I went through, it wasn't a good thing. So and it led me on a darker path. So that I'm telling you hey, and it might just not work for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I think. Okay, I guess we'll start with me. than I do have when I think of all of us. I can get, I didn't read this one. Love is patient. I'm not very patient. So I will justify, like, I want to love you and fix it. Just tell me. And if you don't want to do that, then okay. And then I can get caught up too. Sometimes I assume, like, I put certain people in boxes. And, like, they don't want to be real, so I don't even care about talking to them, which is terrible. Right, or they're this Pharisaical spirit, and I've said this before, and in doing so, I kind of can become that way. But if I feel like they're a person that's like a religious-hearted, it's truth without grace, blah blah blah, and it's not. I don't want to hear them. I don't want to love them. Well, what happens is, and what I didn't realize sometimes, is, say you guys see me interact with someone like that. You're going to think then that that's how I'm going to treat you if you do something I don't like or love, right? And then, so not only do I make you nervous, but then also I can carry that into thinking everyone's like that. So I become this very defensive person.
I never thought about that.
Does that make sense? Yep. That's me. Yeah, and I don't trust people very much. And I think intrinsically I know and I desire so much for that true, cool, loving intimacy. And I've been burned so many times that I'm very selective with who I do that with. But then what ends up happening is I'm even selective to the people I've selected.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's deep.
So anyway, what do you got?
I'm very selfish. And actually I am an introvert, and I don't ever want to admit it. But I'm very selfish in the fact that I care more about myself because I don't think you're going to care about me at all. And in fact, I normally lean on the side of I'd rather be alone, mostly because I don't want to be close to you because you're inevitably going to hurt me. At least that's the lie.
Sure.
That's not actual reality.
No, I get it.
And
but that's, it makes sense.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
this
the
weird
feeling.
thing. So I will pull away from somebody if I sense like they're having a life change or a life event thing or any of that. I start to pull away and I start to put up walls. And my walls look like a tough guy. And it looks at all these things, and I start to get aggressive, and I start to get all these things, and I stop loving you because I want to get as far away from you as I can. I want to get away from you because then you can't hurt me. If I'm pulling away, then you can't hurt me. And then I'm very selfish in the fact that, like, even when I'm not pulling away, I'll give you everything that's going on in my life, and then I'll leave. I won't actually talk to you. I won't actually spend time with you, which wasn't even how I was in high school because I used to annoy people greatly because I'd push to a unreal standard, and then even with people that I wasn't really close with, I just keep pushing, and then I'd inevitably be in a place where I was like, I don't even know how I got here, and like that's changed since I've been out of high school and things like that. But like,
it stemmed from hurt.
Yeah. I have a lot of weird hurts that just I live out of a lot, and I'm very insecure, so I don't open up, and I don't love you, and I allow my insecurities to hurt you, no, it's not a good way to explain it. I'm so insecure, I don't even focus on loving you. I focus on protecting myself.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
Yeah, I like that, man. And you actually said the truth. I think most of the time we're just selfish. And we spend our time focusing on our own stuff. And that's cool because yours are like, your heart is not selfish. But that's pretty mature and crazy of you to be able to acknowledge because everything we just shared is still selfish. The reasons why. I'm supposed to hit him with a bunch. So on the podcast, he's been chewing his fingers. I mean, literally
man.
like a Wolverine.
Oh,
and he's like, hey, guys, help me. And I've
Yep.
tried. He doesn't listen. So I was like, we agreed. I'm just going to slap his arm.
Yep.
And I was afraid to do it on camera hard, but I will after. I mean,
They literally had this conversation right before, so AJ was okay with it. So for those who think Todd's being mean to AJ,
for once.
AJ actually okayed it.
I really like, Clint, what you said, too, because I think that's a lot of us, too. We get hurt, and then we're like, I'm not going to get hurt again. So, but now let's wrap this around. We've all shared. Here's the bottom line. So every Christian in the world says that love is the thing, right? We got to love. But isn't it funny how we've made it okay to not love? We've made selfishness okay. So I brought this up in a message a couple weeks ago, or last week even. It's funny, man. If somebody in the church is caught stealing, boy, will we make sure that there's some church discipline about it.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
If somebody in the church is caught in a sexual sin, you better believe we'll take care of it. But that Christian leader that is caught in selfishness. Now, we won't do anything about that, even though the Bible says it. They're envious. They're hate-filled. They're prideful. We don't do anything about that. And we've literally accepted that as normal. When in the same sense it says, I could read in Galatians or whatever, and sexual morality, homosexuality, all these things won't inherit the kingdom of God. It also talks about envy and lust and strife and hatred. And yet I don't hear a lot of churches doing church discipline on those things, right? So that reminds me of what Jesus said when he said to the Pharisees, we're not defending sexual morality, you chumps that are listening, looking for some weird religious thing to run home to daddy about and tell Big Bad Todd is saying bad things. If you take grace too far, can't take it too far, the Bible says that. But where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. Right there, that's it, proves it. Just an aside, because I've known there's been some leaders in this community who have said that about me in this church, which is ridiculous. But real, I got off there. Jesus said, you've neglected the greater things of the law. When he's talking to the Pharisees, you do all the big ones, but you neglect the small ones like justice, mercy, love, all these things, faith. You can look that throughout Scripture. That's not that exact verse as far as the list. You should have done one without neglecting the other. It's not either or. It's all of it. And until the church, with a capital C, until pastors are confident enough in themselves, in their calling, to quit being people pleasers and start being people leaders and people shepherds, and that goes for me too, and start challenging the culture of a church, even if it costs you that wealthy church member or it costs you that really good guy, servant. Matthew 18 makes it clear it doesn't matter the appearance.
That's right.
Sometimes it's hard, man. I've said this before, it's easy to judge Christian leaders sometimes, but until you realize that in their mind, the food on their table is dependent on whether their board's happy with them. Some of those that have a board. Now, that being said, doesn't change their calling, but I'm going to flip it around and say, that's not just Christian leaderships. That's an easy scapegoat. If you're a Christian watching this, how do you, if you're the one sitting there pointing fingers when that you hear about someone's porn addiction, but you don't say a word about someone's snottiness or greed or whatever because they drive a Mercedes and have a nice car and a good job with 3 letters like VIP or CPA behind their name. So now, the higher the social status, the less important it matters if they're hateful, greedy, selfish, envious, all those other things. And you allow that. We allow that. It's all part of what feeds it. You know what I mean? So we've got to start taking that verse very seriously. Okay, I'm going to say this again. Just this verse alone. By this, John 13:35, this is Jesus himself. By this, all will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. If you don't have love, okay, I don't care all the rest of it. And he talks about this in 1 Corinthians 13. He says things like, hey, if you have enough faith that I could literally do what Jesus said and move a mountain, but you don't have love, it's nothing. It's worthless. If you do prophecy, if you
do miracles,
anything, it's just noise. And yet we don't live like that. But we'll quote that verse.
Oh, yeah.
You see, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and I think, wrap it back to me, because I want to be real. I have allowed, and we all do this, even some of you out there are doing it. You start in a good place. Let's say sexual sin, that's a good one. It's good to be firm with that. And there are pastors and there are leaders and there are church people who are kind of wolves or whatever, right? And meaning they probably do take advantage. But I've said this for a long time. There's a lot of people in our Christian culture that would rather throw out a hurt sheep, right? Just because they might be a wolf in sheep's clothing. So you're literally go, well, even if I hurt some sheep by chucking them out, at least I'll make sure I always get wolves.
That's right.
Versus rather than being, okay, yeah, maybe I won't catch every wolf, but that's not our job anyway. Jesus himself says, I believe in Matthew 23, I will separate the sheep and the goats. I will. Which implies that at the end of the time, there will be some goats amongst the sheep. So I feel like you start off in a good place, man, even me, right? And the idea of like, I want to be this and I want to stand, and then you just become embittered because, you end up, it becomes religion and it's still the same sense, right? Like, why? Because these certain types of people don't love well, I will not love them. Which is ironic,
I think one
hypocritical
of the things too is that there's the Bible verse that says what's done in the dark will come to light.
Yeah.
I think that some churches try to control what comes to light. So like those secret sins, the sexual ones that are done, the pornography that you're doing, that's secret. But what about the gossiping that's going on in your church?
Right.
That's done in secret. but you're not bringing that to light. So there's that double standard, I think, and then some churches are trying to control that when the Bible literally says it's light and it's darkness. There's no gray area. It's either darkness or it's light.
I don't know, man.
I like, gray light. Yeah.
Gray light, yes.
That's it.
I don't know, man. You just gotta you gotta realize that if you're willing to, stand strong on like sexual immorality, but you're not willing to dive into someone being a prideful punk, like you're weak. Like you just gotta be willing
or
to
even
accept
calling
that.
out selfishness. Or,
Yes.
Or let me give you a Christianese answer. Sometimes we know how to paint our sin in a way in Christianity that it's okay. So I'm just going to give a big example, right? The Bible says we're to go to church, right? Mm-hmm. That's an easy one. But let's go with love, okay? Sorry, I'm not loving because I'm working real hard to provide for my family like a good Christian man, right? In that moment, we have justified. And most, be honest, you hear that in most churches, like, oh, cool, I can't say anything because it's for his family. Right? I can't say anything because it's for, you know what I mean? When the truth is, imagine if I did this. Sometimes I look at pornography because I'm stressed from providing for my family.
Yep.
We would call that, we wouldn't go, oh, that makes sense, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, we'd still call that out. And I think, by calling out, by the way, we don't mean attacking, but pushing into and saying, hey, Todd, I know you're stressed, man. I know you're busy, but like, do you think maybe you're being, are you still seeing people's hearts? Sorry, got to prepare a sermon. Okay, I guess I can't ask him that. Maybe I'll use myself. So, yeah, you're right, man. We are weak in the sense that we don't want to push into those areas because they've also become, because we'd have to challenge more than the person. We're challenging what's the societal norm within that church.
Yeah, to me, there's like two options here. Like it's what we just said, the weak, and like you just gotta be willing to admit that you're weak in areas. You gotta be willing to admit that so you can grow stronger in it. Mm-hmm. So there's two options here. There's either that, there's weakness and fear, or there's arrogance. And there's arrogance in the sense that you know that you're probably part of that too. So you're gonna put you and those people above it so that you can create this weird fake religion that says that because we're not acknowledging this, but we'll call you out over here for doing this thing. Now we're better. And so now we don't have to deal with that. It's arrogance, man. I think a lot of people will do that. They'll take, like you said, they'll take their selfishness and they'll go, okay, well, I know that this person's being selfish and I'm selfish, but I know that if I make it out to be that selfishness isn't as big of a deal as this person who's on heroin, well, then that person is lower than us, and we can make everyone else think they're lower than us so that no one has to look at our selfishness. It's arrogance.
I think the Christian culture, they can get caught up in caring with the reputation versus restoration.
Bro, I love that. This guy's so good at coming up with sayings.
I know.
He is. I love it.
It's awesome.
Thank you. Because it's
serious. It's so
this
good,
is the norm in that I struggle with accepting compliments.
Bro, that's for real. That's awesome. That's powerful.
Because I was,
and I think you're 100% right.
I was part of a situation where it wasn't me, but where this kind of happened, where there was someone's faults in their sin was brought out publicly, and they cared more about that than the actual restoring him.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me thinking, because it's like I had conversation, with this person, and this years ago, but explain the hurt that was behind it, and then looking to where that person is now today because of those hurts. Like, what would have happened if the church would have walked beside him instead of just kicking him out?
Right.
Like, there's nothing wrong with, going through the Matthew 18 the steps, if you're willing to walk it out with him as well. It's not, hey, guess what? I'm done with you. Like, man, that fires me up. That fires me up.
And in that case, you're talking too, some of the steps were clearly, jumped because that person wasn't told they couldn't be there. They just they were put up there and it was put on blast,
Yeah.
Kind of. But I guess in that mindset, in your mind, let's be clear, because there is in Matthew 18, it does say that, and go to church. You're saying there was never any indication that it was like I want to help you. Right?
Exactly.
And you were involved in that far more than me. But I want to make the connection between the two because it may seem like Norman moves to a different thing, but I think he's exactly right. So this culture thing, right? Calling out one thing, not calling the other. We want to be loved, but we won't push that as Christians. We say that, they will know us by love for one another, but then we make it more about they will know your mind by how you appear holy in the big sins, not even the others, right? You should do as Jesus said, you should do the big ones, while also not neglecting love and forgiveness and mercy and grace and all those things.
Amen.
Coming back to you, though, so what kind of culture does that create? Well, it creates a culture where, of course, you're going to start caring more about your reputation than restoration. Why? Because it goes back to what I said to you. I don't want to shake it up, right? Because that would mean I have to face and makes like this culture we've created that minimizes some sin and maximizes others. And so we don't want to do that, right? Because if you walk beside this person who's done this one sin, well, that reflects poorly on me.
That's
and
right.
like,
You
even
become
if it's
ostracized.
biblical, oh, I don't want to do that. Because then people are going to think my church is blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? And then what does that in turn create? This strange
religion, man.
Yeah, religion and I like that you call it fake because it's not even the one of the Bible.
No, it's not.
I have no idea what's going on in this hallway right now. It's like someone shooting someone.
Sounds like a staple.
Can't wait to go out and find out who it is.
They stapler. At first I was thinking they're flipping some light switches, but that you got me thinking stapler because I know that we do have a board right here for the youth group that we put stuff on. So I was wondering if someone's stapling up the collages or something.
And everybody's like, "What are you talking about?" Anyway, hey, but guys, we're gonna have to. This will be kind of segment one of part two here because Normonian here and I have to go serve our youth here.
Yeah.
So we'll come back with part two and Clint. Yeah. Well, you won't notice it on the show. You'll just see that he disappears and it's just me and AJ. So in a minute, watch this. So, hey, we'll see you later, Norman. Love you, dude.
Love you guys.
I'll send you on your way. That was magic.
I didn't expect this. We traveled through time.
You saw it happen. I just made him disappear, and it was only me.
You glitched in the reality.
Take the blue or red pill.
Dude, take it red, I guess.
And I think that means real life. So we took the blue. Anyway, Matrix reference. Hey, so welcome back.
Yeah, new
As we
movie
told
coming
you,
out.
And by welcome back, I mean, the second segment of part two. It's only been just moments since Norman left this.
That's right, man.
This studio, and here we are to continue. Do we look a little different?
He had other commitments. Just had to,
Look more tired.
pop out of
Is
here.
our hair not as nice? Maybe. Although those in podcasts couldn't hear that, why'd we tell you? So, that being said, I really enjoyed that conversation, though. And I hope other people did, too. And
Me too, man.
That's the stuff that I'm really into, man, is I want the real stuff, man. I want deep friendships, real community. I want a vibrant faith, man.
That's right.
We've talked about this. Faith and joy and peace. I want those things. And God says, that's the thing. If this is real, that's there for us.
That's so good, man.
And part of that is the community that we're in. And
I want the meat.
we can't settle for, like you said, this kind of fake religion that we sometimes create.
It's true, man. Especially it's funny. It's been such a difference, even in just such a short amount of time of making the change. So.
What about it? I'm listening. I'm curious.
I know. Sorry, I got the giggles.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
I know. Well, it's been a couple minutes, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just such a big shift, man. Like the weight is just gone. It's crazy. It's funny when you're not following Jesus, when you're not doing what you're supposed to do, and you're acting out of a shell of who you really are. You don't realize the crap you're accepting. You are literally just settling for this shell of yourself, and it's sad. I was a completely different person. I was talking to some guys, and it's funny. I realized that, and I don't remember if I said this earlier or not, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I realized that I am literally like I am a relational person, and for the past at least month and a half, I think probably even longer than that, I've acted as if I was not. I've acted as if I was like a solitary person, where I'm more like I get the energy not being with people, and like that's not true. Like, and I love talk. I love talk. I love talk.
I love brick.
I love talking to people, man, and like I love connecting with people, and like it's cool.
lamp.
It's cool. I love lamp. It's cool getting to know people, and like I don't know, man. It's so weird how I just settled for that. I literally like tricked and convinced myself that was who I was when I wasn't. You know?
Yeah. Why do you think you? Yeah, I guess we already talked about it. It doesn't matter. I mean, to go back into it, but I think that's cool, man. And genuinely, I mean, it matters, but I mean, I don't want to make you go back. I think what's cool is for me to take away, and it goes me too, for both of us, is it's easy to compare last week to this week. And it's not like situations changed a ton.
No, not really.
But like you said, and when you're doing what God tells you to do, whether that's letting people carry burdens and share, whether it's, all that kind of stuff, loving people radically, serving people, being in the Word even, all that stuff. And I know we didn't mention that, but it's all of that, It's real.
It plays a role, man.
Yeah, and you don't even have to understand in the moment. Because like when you're down or sad, and you're like, I should read the Bible, your mind, it's not like let's be real, you don't in your mind think it's going to, like you don't understand how that's going to help. Your mind tells you, oh, that's not going to help. But I'm telling you, that's just an example of every time. It does, and I don't get it. It's just the living Word of God.
Man.
Yeah,
yes,
there is a supernatural aspect.
That's right.
To it.
It's that part of faith that you can't explain. Really, it just happens. And I agree, man. Like in those moments when you are sad or when you get into those modes, you don't. Your conscious mind often doesn't think that reading the Word is going to help you, which is weird because I think that's just like the sin in us, right? It's that sin nature that like we naturally, since we're born with it, like we can't rationalize that stuff. And so, I don't know, man, it's so powerful, Even, it's funny, because I can see, like, God, like, changing people's lives. I can see him moving in other people's lives. But, like, man, when you don't apply it to yourself, you don't realize how much you're selling yourself short. And so, I don't know, man. I'm just excited to be back, which is so weird to say. It's almost like I was, like, taking a vacation. I'm coming back, but it's true. Like, I just feel, yeah, man, I just feel like I'm back. So, it's cool.
Every time you say that, I think.
Some shady.
Song. Nope, actually, different. Back. I think it's Kid Rock.
Nice.
Yeah. Don't look that up. No, it's from
pre-saved.
It is actually
Pre-saved, Todd. His life interests.
So, I have some stuff.
Okay.
You guys had. We're gonna move on, unless you guys. I don't know, Fun Turn. Do you have anything to close up that?
No.
He says no, sir.
Cool. So I'd love to get you guys' thoughts on this. When you, I guess I'll be very direct. When you're going through a period of life where you're not being yourself, or you feel like life has lost kind of like has lost luster or fire or life. You know what I mean? Like that it's something, it's missing something. What is it? What is it for you? What's the, are you kind of like AJ? Are you a person that in that moment or me, that, in my case, it was becoming jaded with stuff around me and then in turn becoming the thing I don't like. And for you, it was sort of accepting this version of yourself that wasn't you. Either way, both of us are living out of who we're not.
Exactly.
Did you find a correlation between your own spiritual life? If you're out there, your spiritual disciplines, reading, prayer, church, doing the things that God has told us to do. Or if you aren't a Christian and you're watching, what do you do in those moments when life feels empty? So anyway,
it's good,
cool
man.
stuff, man. All right. Real talk. I talked about this. Let's talk about something.
Ooh.
One other reason that we were a little weird for a while, and I realized this, and
okay.
Before I even look, I'm going to mention. And I said we're going to do it, and we're going to do it.
All right.
Nobody believes this because they're going to call us conspiracy theorists.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Period.
Let's get it.
Social media suppresses content creators, in this case, even though a church is putting out, it's still content, who say and discuss things that they don't like to be discussed.
That is factual.
And who bring up other arguments, or don't necessarily accept the status quo. And you can think what you want. That's a fact. So at times, I think we learned that early on. And I never even told you guys this. I thought about this. I wonder if sometimes the part of the reason we lost ourselves is because once we realized what was happening, we stopped talking about everything because we didn't. And I know we did it for a good reason. We did it because we wanted the important stuff.
Yes.
Which is Christ and the gospel and
That's
what all
right.
this means to
The
take
gospel.
front and center. But in doing that, man, we're shutting down a part of who we are.
That's
and then
true.
we become kind of politically correct in a way.
That's right, man.
So,
Became PC.
you know, you guys might see that with this episode. And it was working, by the way. The more we didn't talk about certain things, you guys notice our views and stuff are going back up.
It's true, actually, which
Especially
is sad.
on the platform that has to do with the front of your head and a novel. The front of your head and a novel.
Front head novel.
The thing that you look at in a mirror, novel. That, which you may be watching this on right now.
Yeah.
Listen, I understand it's their, we've talked about this, it's their platform. They can do what they want. My issue with it has always been just be upfront about it. Just say, if you talk about this, you're not going to reach as many people, period.
Yeah, man.
And before you guys think they don't have the possibility, somebody's like, you think there's just one person there sitting there watching, pushing a button? No, it's called
many.
algorithms and it's called software. And you know, they have keywords and things that they search your stuff for.
Absolutely.
And when that happens, I mean, how do you think they get the little banners on your memes?
That's right. How do
You
you
think
yeah.
they there's some person reading all your stuff? No, they have it set that way.
That's right, man.
So that's reality.
That is reality.
That being said, we're not going to do that anymore.
I love it.
Now, we might come up with creative ways to talk about certain things so that you can hear about it. That's a fact.
I love it, man.
And I think the most of America is waking up to that.
That's right.
You're waking up to the fact that that one side of the discussion is not accepted by large technological firms, certain government agencies, and certain media platforms in general. You know, they want a certain line to be pushed.
Yeah, they want a message.
Yeah, they have a certain viewpoint that they believe to be so true that they don't want to hear the rest of it.
That's right.
And so that's reality. And if you know, we have a lot of, I mean, that's a fact. I'm not even going to debate it with you. So this isn't about a political candidate anymore or president. This is even bigger than that to me.
I agree.
A lot of people want to make it about that, and it's also bigger than a medicine that is put into your body via a very sharp object. Code again, because I'm trying to beat this. You like what I did
You're
there?
doing well.
So it's bigger than that too, though. That's become what they make it completely about, and so they meaning a lot of these big tech people and government, certain government affiliations. And P.S. guys, I don't necessarily, my personal opinion is that this is not a partisan issue, meaning there's people on both sides of the aisle who contribute to this.
I agree, man.
So I'll throw this word out for you guys. Look it up. Do you guys in this room actually know what an oligarchy is?
I do not.
Yes, I actually do.
Fun turn? You want to tell everyone what an oligarchy is for the most part?
So, correct me if this isn't the exact direct definition. I know this because I play Dungeons and Dragons and I created my own world.
Fair enough.
Where there are oligopolies, and I love the idea of this, and the fact that I like it in a fantasy setting and the complexity of it. I don't like it in the real world. So it is a group or a collective of very powerful figures, either rich or the highest in a criminal organization, all coming together. So essentially, the top most rich and most influential people, they all come together and they essentially rule over everything. That is the government. Say
it again. Sorry, that last part. I'm looking.
The rich and the most powerful rule over everybody. It's essentially a group of people that rule over absolutely everything. They're like almost like a council, but they literally rule over a large group of people. Typically, very wealthy, very influential people.
Right.
Criminals. They will rule over a large area, and they become an oligopoly.
Okay. Interesting.
A little bit of that is the school system.
I know the.
He's 100% right. So he's kind of even making it very specific. But an oligarchy, even more baseline, is a small group of people.
Yeah.
Typically, it's going to be your wealthy.
Right.
Control society and government. It's a form of government we've kind of named, and it's called it's been around. Oligarchy. It's a Greek word.
Okay.
So this small group. Look it up if I'm wrong.
I was just wondering what it meant in Greek.
Well, now I gotta look
Because
it
I'm
up.
so.
He goes, now I gotta look.
so
I gotta.
ignorant.
I do remember, but
he goes,
now
I gotta
can't,
know.
Because think about it: anarchy, oligarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Greeks, like sometimes when you look into their words, like it's so like impactful because you're like.
It means oligos means few, and archine, which means rule. So
Few
the
rule.
of few. Yep.
Ooh.
The rule of
So-
few. Wow.
Oligarchy is this small group of people. So that being said, you can understand why it isn't really for some a partisan issue, meaning a political party issue, because
Right.
both sides. If I'm on one side and you're on one side, and we both have been running the show for 20 years.
Yeah.
We'll probably put aside our petty differences because you and I both, at the end of the day, you scratch mine, I scratch yours. We want to stay we want to stay in power, right?
That's right. You want to stay in control.
So
Absolutely.
to a degree, there has to be a narrative that keeps you both in power. So this is not saying that things aren't true. This isn't saying that certain diseases or sicknesses aren't real. I've never said that. Clearly, that would be
That's right.
foolish. Now, statistics and things like that can be skewed.
Sure.
About
Absolutely.
anything. So
That's right.
anyway, those kinds of things, and it sounds funny and silly, I know, but it's kind of a test. I'm telling you, if you use certain words, guys, you will be. You can try it yourself.
Sure.
You already
yeah.
know it. Type it in
Get
your
on-
status.
Type in your status. Do a little selfie video real quick.
Yeah, make a live video.
Yeah,
Talk
just
about
do a
something,
quick
and
video.
go back and check it. Hour, 2 hours later.
Yeah. We'll see if there's a little banner there that says something.
Yeah. So, and it's not just the banner, right? I mean, literally, fewer people see it.
That's right, man.
So anyway, I think that's been part of our issue too. At least for me, when I started thinking about it, like my frustration, it's that I'm penned in sometimes,
Oh yeah.
and then we become kind of boring because that isn't who we are.
Boring. It's true, man. There's a lot of, I don't know, man. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, everybody, and so, again, I don't know how in depth we'll go. I'll kind of let Todd steer that ship, but there is a lot going on, and I think in this current state that we are in, I think it's very important to become as educated as possible, and that means looking beyond the lines that you think there's nothing beyond them. I think you should look farther.
Oh yes, look past all of those little lines.
Yes.
So that being said, we're going to dig into some of these things you guys shared because we can.
That's right. Let's do it. I'm excited. Which I'm glad you came prepared to steer the ship because who knows what I would have said.
Anyway, one thing at a time. One thing at a time.
That's right.
So we have some questions too. We might do a few of those. We have a ton of good questions. I mentioned that last week. Main part of the show, again, remember, www.theremnant.live/real-talk.
Boom.
Shoot in your questions, thoughts, comments, articles, and we'll talk about them.
Let's get it.
Lego.
What do we got?
I got made fun of one time of that. I remember that.
Lego?
I got to find this. Yeah, I was making a joke. Here we go. So what do you guys got here? Okay, here's an article that I find interesting to talk about.
Okay.
You guys hear about this? No thanks. Go to the website. You guys hear about this trans fighter, Alana McLaughlin,
Yes, I have.
who used a chokehold to defeat his opponent, Celine Provost,
Okay.
a woman by birth.
Yep.
Although Provost, the one that was defeated, this is the article, is a 32-year-old female that has had over a decade of experience competing in MMA. She lost her match to McLaughlin, a 38-year-old Army veteran who spent 6 years serving in the U.S. military as a male.
Wow.
And actually, Piers Morgan, you know him?
Yeah.
He actually called it sickening, and of course, they're jumping him.
Yeah, man.
He wrote, I think it's kind of interesting. I'm sorry, what?
All right. Keep going.
This is interesting. He said this, and I think it's a good thing for us to talk about. Morgan wrote an opinion piece published by the Daily Mail after the match in Miami, calling it the quote moment that ideology met cold, hard reality. The journalist argued that Provost couldn't compete with the overwhelming physical strength of her opponent. And that's a fact. So what do you guys think about this?
I watched the fight.
Oh, really?
I watched part of the fight.
Did it look as bad as he's saying?
It was terrible.
He says...
her head was just bouncing around. Like, literally, like, she didn't lose as a chokehold. She was concussed long before the end of that fight. Like, I've seen boxers. I'm actually very into boxing. I love boxing. But I've seen fighters get rocked, and when you see two men hit each other, it doesn't look like that. But literally, she bounced off the cage. Like, she was stumbling. She was bouncing. He would hit her, and it would almost like she would bounce back into the fist. Like, it was terrible.
Jeez.
And, like, he just rocked her repeatedly, and you could see the difference in physical strength. It was sickening. It was disgusting.
Yeah. Man, I just don't understand how this is even fair in the slightest, and I don't understand how people can just be like, yeah, man, this is okay, this is normal. Like, even when you look at it in the context of, what was her name, the actual woman fighter?
Celine Provost.
Celine. So even if you look at this from Celine's, perspective, this is somebody who's trained for years and years to make it to a point where she's at. To beat her opponents, to do all these things, to go on a road that is long and hard for any athlete of any sport, to get to the highest level. Well, I think it's highest level. Was it UFC or Bellator?
Some other combat sport. So it's not that, but it's high enough you're getting paid on all that stuff.
Which is right. So you are a professional. You've made it to the professional level, which is a small percentage of people can do that. So you have taken that journey, and for it to get completely railroaded because of a transgender woman who is in all forms.
Was a man for 33 years.
Yes, literally a man for 33 years.
By the way, lived as a man for 33 years.
Right. The fact that people can just look at that and not even think about her, like, from her perspective. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's just not fair in the slightest. Like, all that hard work, in my opinion, down the drain. Because if you ask me, if she's going to be able to beat him, 10 out of 10, no. You're never going to reach the top. If they're going to allow this, you're never getting anywhere ever again. It's over.
That's what he said, too. He said the real victim, the shame here in the victim is women's sports.
Yes, it is. It really
I didn't see it, but he said, and that's why I was curious that you saw it. He said that her punches, Celine's, were bouncing off McLaughlin's like a lion cub trying to hit a lion. Like, it wasn't even affecting him.
Oh, yeah.
That's just insane, man. It's sad.
Here's what, dude. This is why it makes me so sad, because I've watched fighting for quite a bit of time now, at least multiple years, and it makes me so sad because there was such a such a honor in the sport. Like,
Yeah.
It's come a long way from dirty fighting and things like that used to happen a lot more, and there's still low blows and things like that happens, but at the end of the day, man, like, honestly, it disgusts me, because that's not fighting anymore. That's not an actual competition. That's practically domestic abuse. Like, it was terrible. And the reason why I say that, even bring up, like, it's come a long way from dirty fighting, because I wouldn't be surprised to start seeing women start doing dirty fighting like the old boxers used to do. They have to.
Not sure it'll matter, man.
And even then, yeah, it probably won't matter.
Yeah, I doubt it. Yeah, I mean,
this is just terrible.
Yeah, man. It's completely. I agree with Piers. It's completely just put a stop to women's sports and its progression. I mean, if this is going to be allowed in all aspects, and just they're just going to let this fully roll out into everywhere, it's over, man. I mean, like, women might as well not even play sports anymore.
Well, it's like that guy that went to the Olympics in the female weightlifting.
Yeah.
He ended up failing because he's if he had not gotten hurt, I think he cheated. Or not cheated, but had bad form, so his thing wasn't counted. Did you hear about this?
I did hear about this.
Anyway, let's just be real. We've talked about this many times, man. Like, this isn't even an issue of whether someone should be allowed to live the way they want. It's a whole different issue. It's not even really a matter right now of transphobia or even transsexual. What it is a reality check about what a male who, like he had mentioned in here, the hormones and stuff do nothing to the bone density, the muscle density.
No.
33 years of testosterone at a level that it was at. I mean, your structure is different.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And you are not going to beat a man,
You're not.
It's not going to happen.
who has the same, even somewhat similar training.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just...
So, I don't know.
I agree, man. It's completely railroaded the progression of women's sports. He hit the nail on the head.
So, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? If you're allowed to post about it. I mean, again, we're not being able, but it's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I have something that'll just make everybody mad because why not? If we're gonna be real, dude, I'm to the point where with this and all of trans sports and everything that's going to happen because of how it is, honestly, I just think these are a bunch of male athletes that took the coward's way out because they couldn't make it with the other males. And that's just the truth at the end of the day. You couldn't make it up there, so now you're taking the coward's way out and going to go fight a bunch of women or go compete with a bunch of women because you aren't able to compete at the same level. You may not even be good enough to compete at the same level. So you're doing something that you're now destroying something that these people have worked at so hard.
Yeah.
Yep.
It reminds me what you said. It reminds me of... Do you remember earlier in the spring, I think, maybe last year, I think it was early spring, where the runner, there's some race up there in like New York where it was, I'm so sorry, excuse me, the guy who became a woman,
Yeah.
or is living as a woman, was racing in this women's race, and he had placed because he used to run with men.
Right.
He was the 200 and some male competitor.
Right.
Like, that's what he ranked.
200.
And he... or placed. Something to this effect. It's not exact, but it is pretty similar. I remember the 200. And won the whole thing.
And won. Couldn't crack 200. Or even like you said, like maybe...
And that's not an insult to women. We're just talking about like what he said, his point here.
Right, the clear difference, And the crazy part is they're getting praised for it.
Yeah, until what happens?
They're getting celebrated, They're getting celebrated for being so brave.
That's what's going to happen in these combat sports. Somebody will die. And
That's what he said too.
Yes.
And then I'm going to tell you what, they won't be the first death. And dude, UFC and combat sports are not people you want to mess around with. And I mark my words, a trans, whatever happens here, they kill somebody accidentally, they won't want to step in that ring ever again because the next opponent will be aiming to kill them. Like they're trying to kill each other as it is by fighting, but there will be no like rules go out the window at that point. Like there will be like that's going to open a can of worms that you can't ever close.
Yeah, that's true.
Because especially those guys, like some of them aren't right at all.
Some of them aren't right.
There's something a little bit loose up there. They've been hit one too many times. But even like it won't end well. Like it's terrible because somebody will seriously get hurt.
Yeah. I agree completely. What do you guys think? Let me know. Ladies, you want to fight a guy? It's just,
no,
I guess if we're making a joke about it, sort of, but it is serious,
Yeah.
And what does it say, guys with daughters out there? Do you want your daughters having to compete against men someday? Whatever their sport is? Well, especially a violent sport. Mm-hmm. Moving on. So this is an interesting, essentially what we're doing here, folks, is real news, real views. We haven't done it in a while, but we're back. If you think about it, right?
Okay, yeah,
real news, real views. You ready for this headline?
I'm in.
Now, you already know the story. So you can be the one to catch everyone up. Ooh. Kodak Black accepts Jesus as his, quote, Lord and Savior.
So Kodak Black, if you guys didn't know, rapper.
Some people wouldn't know.
That's right.
I'm serious, yeah.
Yeah. He's, what is he, like 20?
24.
Like 24 years old. He hit it big. He had a song that came out, I don't know, a couple, 3 or 4 years ago. Could be a little longer than that.
Went to jail, got pardoned by Trump.
Yep, exactly. Went to jail, got pardoned by Trump. He's been in a lot of trouble growing up, had a really rough upbringing. And now he just got out not too long ago now. It's been probably, close to a year, around there.
Probably.
And
yeah, he'll get pardoned and whatever, yeah.
So that's right. And so the story goes is that...
this year. It was just this year, right? He did those pardons right before his term was out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, several months.
That's right, several months. And so the story goes is you had a couple of I don't know what their faith is. I don't know what.
I don't know.
It was a
I think they're just. I mean, they're Christians.
Yeah, it was a couple Christians. They were part of some organization. I don't remember what
They
it was
attend
called.
King Jesus Universal Ministry. We
There
don't
you
know
go.
anything about that part.
Nope.
That's irrelevant. We're not. Again, we're not trying to be. We don't know anything about it. It's irrelevant to me.
Right.
But they were Christian ministers.
That's right.
Kevin
Christian ministers.
Lubador and Anya Ickert.
There you go. And they were.
This is a crazy story.
Oh yeah. Now they were stopping at a gas station, and they
Just
end
a
up.
random gas station.
Yep, random gas station, and they go in there and they see Kodak Black and his crew. Get into a conversation with him and ends up praying for Kodak Black, and they have video evidence of them having Kodak Black, essentially going, "Hey, Jesus is Lord," praying for it, and it's pretty wild, man. And then to push this even farther, because I'm sure people go, "Oh, it's not even him." Kodak Black came out on, I believe it was either Twitter or Instagram. I can't remember which one it is. And he shared the video that they had posted online, and he essentially said, like, God versus the devil, whose side are you on in the war? So it's pretty cool, man. This is one of those things, because I remember when this first happened with, like, Kanye back in the day. It was a very interesting time, very exciting. So Kodak, it's pretty cool, man, to see a guy who, with the upbringing he had, because I know he was a lot of his life, he was just constantly in trouble and managed to get, break out of that through music. But, a lot of the time that doesn't erase the fact that you live the way you live, So it's cool for him to be in the position he is now where he's saying, hey, man, I accept Jesus. So
Yeah, and in the video, one of the others took a video of it, which, again, we could think what you want of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a cool testimony in a way. And it has here exactly what he prayed. And it's a legit, he prayed that, man. And he came out later and said, hey, God brought these people into my life. Lord's going to find you where you're at.
It's cool.
So it reminds me a lot of the Kanye stuff early on. Remember when we talked about that? And,
Yep.
Even the Bieber stuff. At the end of the day, guys, we got to take people at their word, and
Yep.
the fruit will bear that. And I think we need to be careful. Why do we question it? Let's just celebrate and pray, be thankful for our brother. And the reality is, pray for him, because
That's right.
he is going to face temptations and things like that we don't have a clue of.
Nope.
Because frankly, and the only reason we don't face it is we don't have access to it.
Nope.
Whereas he does.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's cool. I'm excited to see and see if that's real solid.
Mm-hmm.
That fell on good soil.
Absolutely,
And
dude.
it sounds like even though he got in trouble a lot, he did a lot of good in the community, which is why Trump pardoned him. And he had
Yes, he was very involved.
Yeah, very philanthropic person.
Yes.
So it's kind of cool, man. Person of peace, a person open to it, who responds. And we'll see what happens in the days to come.
I'm excited.
Have you guys heard much about Kanye's album? Was it Donda?
Donda.
Donda.
No, I haven't actually.
I'm gonna tell you right now, still blatantly Christian.
That's
as
awesome,
far
dude.
as the titles and even I only listened to one.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. We kind of talk. We don't know necessarily where he's at, but he is publicly claiming, to be
Christ follower.
Yeah, man. And again, it's one of those things where I think we want to point out all the faults. We don't do that
Right.
to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I can just read even some of the names to you. God breathed.
Mm-hmm.
Praise God. Jonah. Believe what I say. Heaven and hell. Keep my spirit alive. Jesus, Lord. Tell the vision. Lord, I need you. Come to life. Jesus, Lord, part 2.
I don't know, man.
These are and that just getting the name Jesus out there, man, is because that debuted #1 before Drake's came out the week after.
Wow.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That album.
That's crazy, dude.
Now, again, the only reason I know this, I keep track. I believe it or not, I don't like Drake, this music. And I haven't even listened to this album. That's not saying I don't like music like that. I'm just being honest. I'm not a fan of Drake.
Yeah.
I love rap music.
Rap music.
I don't
Rap
like the filthy
music.
stuff. And that's an area everybody knows and I'm pretty passionate about. It's like Christian rap today, in my opinion. The best guys, some of those guys are certainly superior
Oh yeah.
lyrically
Oh, yeah, man.
to mainstream. So anyway, cool story. Kanye, let's pray for them, man. Crazy stuff's
Absolutely,
happening.
man. Hashtag pray for Kodak Black.
Oh yeah.
Get it started. Blow up Twitter. Trending.
So trendy.
We'll talk about the other one Tuesday.
Nice, man. What a
We'll
ride,
talk
huh?
about CVID.
The CVID.
CVID and the things that go into our body via metal rods, little metal sharp things.
Little metal Sharpies.
It's not even probably not what you guys think. We don't really care so much about whether or not you want to get something as much as we care about who tells you you have to.
Yeah, we care about freedom.
Yeah, he's right. God gave us that.
That's right.
That's a fact. So, hey, good show, man. I'm excited to be back on.
Me too, man.
Probably going to seem a little weird to some people because we were kind of all over and, we used magic. Just kidding. Or am I? The Matrix glitch earlier. So, yeah, we're excited to get going. We're making that deal with you guys. Hey, we're back.
We're back.
And, we hope you join us for the ride as we tackle some real stuff. Real views. Share what we think. We've already got some plans to, if we get booted from certain platforms.
Oh, yeah,
like
we got
Jesus
some
or
plans.
anything else.
Oh, yeah.
We got ideas. So we're excited, man. We love you guys. We love Jesus. God's in control. I know this world seems crazy sometimes and out of control, but you know what? Who's not surprised? God.
Amen.
God, I read that quote from someone a while back. God's not going to bed worried tonight. Right? God's not worried. He's got this.
Amen.
So, anything you got to say, man?
Hey, thank you guys so much. I love you guys. Thank you so much for sticking it out with us, especially through the weirdness of this episode and then even in the prior episodes, Like Todd said, we're back. It's good to be back. Oh, man. I'm so excited. Listen, if you guys are watching from Facebook, if you haven't already, share it, like it, shoot us a comment, and we'll get back to you, whether it's a concern, complaint, or love. If it's complaint, don't say anything, though. And also, if you're watching from, YouTube, that's the one. Why don't you guys go ahead? Why don't you guys go ahead and subscribe to us? Hit that subscribe button. I can't say that word. And hit the notification bell, because when you do that, it'll send you a notification, and you can see us first. And if you're watching from,
sound every time I did that?
I can do that. I might be able to do
No, I
that.
said you already hear it.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, and if you're watching from Rumble, go ahead and shoot us a Rumble.
Now, we know we're back when Fun Turn's going. Anything you got to say, Fun Turn?
On all of our podcasting things that you're listening to us, we love you, Pod Squad. We would really appreciate it if you would just give us a like or download the podcast. That really helps us out, as well as leave a review. Give us a 5-star review, and we would greatly appreciate it if you would give us some feedback specifically. Like, you don't even have to give us real feedback. You tell us that you like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I like them
true.
too.
They're
but
delicious.
If you don't have anything good to say about us, just like your mama said, if you got nothing nice to say, keep it to yourself. So that's all I got to say. It's great to be back, and I can't wait to see this Tuesday.
Nice.
Awesome. Hey, we love you guys. Share, like, all that beautiful stuff. Interact with us. Comments. We're committing to that too. Getting back into this. Me, Fun Turn, AJ. We're gonna check that thing. We're gonna see when you guys comment. We're gonna interact with you. We want to talk to you. Those are particularly on the book, and YouTube, and like I said, even the podcast. All you got to do is use the link, and www.theremnant.live/real-talk, or go find us on Facebook or wherever else, YouTube, and we'd love to hear from you guys. Let us know where you're listening from and all that beautiful stuff. We hope you guys. Actually, before I do that, I just found out we had a new person watch our barbershop and bikini episode 2. And one was from India. Hello.
Hello from
They
India.
gave us a like. And the other was, I believe, from Australia. Hello. Welcome.
Hello, welcome.
Anyway, everyone else, we love you just as much. We hope you have a great day, and God bless you.